So it's been a little bit since my last video on this. It's been a lot happening and a whole lot of things changing up. So I'm going to be switching a couple things around the channel. I've honestly been trying to get out of the ordinary interviews, but it's really hard to get people to talk. People are typically pretty skittish on subjects like that. So I do want to do more out of the ordinary. And I would like to do some more one-wheel stuff and some more gaming stuff. But what I'm thinking about doing is creating a secondary channel for the gaming aspect of things and sort of narrowing in the focus on this. And so I'm still going to be doing all the same types of content. I might just spread it out over a different channel that will obviously be linked up to this one. Because believe it or not, doing gaming videos has taught me a lot about video editing, and has taught a lot about just video making in general. And it's really fun, so there's that. But for this training journal, I'm going to try to narrow down what I want to talk about, because I just suddenly realized that there's a lot to talk about. As always, my general PSA, these are just my thoughts, my opinions. These are not meant to inform your training or to prove that this is real, or this is my perspective on what the training has done to me personally, and my perspective on it coming from an external martial arts perspective. I think I said perspective twice, whatever, it doesn't matter. Something I didn't expect is I'm getting a lot of messages and a lot of questions regarding my progress on my foot. Because I'm getting messages from people that are either flat-footed or they have fallen arches, knee issues. I'm getting a lot of messages about this, and a lot of the messages and comments that are asking me where that video is that I learned it from. So I'm going to pin both of the videos down in the description that I go to for these exercises for fixing fallen arches. And I have made more and more progress with my feet, and that's a big part of my training right now. In fact, literally before I get out of bed, I wake up, I extend my legs and stretch out, and then I start doing the foot exercises before I ever stand up. And partly because I think it's just a good habit, but also that way, the moment I stand up in the day, I want to have as good a structure going through my ankle and into my foot as I possibly can. And that way I don't have any rolling of my ankles, my knees don't bob in at all throughout the day. That's kind of my thought towards it, that's my hope. And it seems to be working, actually. It seems to really be helping. So, general progress on my arch, on my left side. My right side is coming up as well, and it actually looks like a proper arch now, and I'm really kind of excited about that. It's cool to see results. It's cool to see tangible, real-world results from these things. My left side is not just flat, but everything had just caved in this way and closing off my quad and probably parts of my back too. I don't freaking know at this point, but my main concern isn't necessarily the height of my arch, and that's like a long-term goal, I guess, but it's the restructuring of how the weight travels into my foot and how that weight goes through the knee and through everything else above it. I just need to fix my structure, my internal posture of my entire leg in order to do Tai Chi. It just has to happen. So I'm doing these exercises, and when I'm out on this floor, barefoot doing things like karate, and I'll look down every now and again at my feet, and I'll see from the top down that my foot is properly dispersing the weight. And then I'll look off to the side, and I'm actually now starting to see a gap between the instep of my foot, that arch, and the floor. I can fit a finger in there now. And I couldn't do that just a little while ago. And in fact, the inside of the ankle, just kind of, I think, past the ankle towards the heel more, there was this bulge. It looked like what I imagine a ruptured hernia to look like, where things are just kind of pushing through, and there's blood vessels and things that are kind of building up near the surface. And it literally went edge of my foot, and then there's a big bulge, and it continued on the heel. I don't know when that popped up. I have no idea. I also didn't know when it collapsed, so maybe I'm just kind of oblivious about my own feet. But that is receding into my foot. It's slowly flattening back out. It's so cool. It really is. So for those that are looking to fix your arches, a few things for you. It's hard. It's hard, and you have to really be diligent about it. And it's very uncomfortable. like when you really work your feet, I think I'm going pretty hard at it. Anytime I'm sitting down, that's what I'm doing. I'm always doing this. I'm always doing the exercises. I'm always thinking about it. I'm kind of obsessed with fixing my left foot. And yeah, every day when I first stand up out of bed, especially my left side, my foot is sore. Like it's really sore, but in a good way, that workout kind of sore. And I feel the weight go through it better than it did the day before. Every day does feel a little bit better and a little easier to put weight through it, which is in turn helping my knee a lot. And my knee was already getting better, but now it's getting way better. I can do standing, and I'm not worried. I get a little nervous, but I'm not as worried about my knee collapsing in. I'm not as worried about something on the inside of my knee spazzing out in the middle of standing posture, as long as I hold that correct. And it's also helped me keep my hip from kicking out and keeping things lined up a lot better. So just like I was hoping, fixing the foot is helping everything above it line up better. And it's improving everything, just literally everything. My quality of life is improving. Now, some of the things that make it really hard is not just the keeping up with the exercises and the actual muscle strain that you're putting on your foot and ankle, things like that. Sure, that's hard. I lost feeling in part of that foot. And I think I've said this in some of my other training journal videos, that I was blind in parts of my feet. And I'm typically forward on the balls of my feet as opposed to my heels. So I thought I would have more feeling in the balls of my feet. Like I could, because I'm there all the time. But I'm finding in training, I have to purposefully release weight to the fronts of my feet just to get 50-50, to have my weight evenly distributed in my feet. And on my left side, I'm only just now getting to where I can feel kind of that point in my shoe and pressing into the floor. I have to, some days, look at that part of my foot. Sometimes I can take a hand, and if I'm down in a squat or something stretching, and I will kind of push that down so I get the sensation of weight going to the bottom of that foot, and then tie that into a sensation of like, okay, I can feel that, I'm registering that weight's going there, and just attack it from every angle that I possibly can to get feeling in that part of my foot. It sounds like it's such an easy thing to feel a part of your foot, because it's attached, it's been there your whole life. But I guess I took that for granted, because it's a lot of work. So I'll be sitting in a posture, I'll be doing like a yoga stretch, and down in the squat, and you're down like this, and well, you're sitting there for 5-10 minutes, and these stretches take on a different role, I guess, as things line up better. And I guess the best way I can say it is things in your body start to get out of your own way. So a good example, down in the squat, where that one first hit was the insides of my hips. And it felt like things were stretching to an extreme where I wanted to wince and pull away from it. Well, so what's the answer is you sit like that for 5 to 10 minutes and just get past it. Just do it, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, eventually that opens up a little bit. So then the stretch moved somewhere else, and then somewhere else, and somewhere else. It's like it's attacking the next thing that's in your way to doing it correct. Whatever that next thing is going to be the next focus of the stretch. Even though I'm trying to do all the same things. Like I'm not changing the way I'm sitting in the stretch. It's just hitting different spots. And so I keep all the same conditions as best I possibly can. And I've gone from being hunched over like this, and the shoulders are struggling to go down, and I'm struggling to keep heels down, and struggling to press this and this open, to where my hips now settle low, and my shoulders naturally come down. My spine naturally starts to stay tall. And I'm no longer hunched over my feet like I'm trying to warm my hands on a fire. I'm actually sitting kind of back and up. And I'm getting to the point where I can put weight evenly into my feet. And I thought I could before, and I'll probably say that in another year. But I can put more weight in the front of my feet. And I don't have to be directly over the front of my feet to do it. It's just the craziest thing. My legs need to open. They are pretty closed off. And what I mean by open versus closed, if you've experienced something opening, you know exactly what I mean. I don't have to explain it to you. But if you've not experienced that and you're kind of curious, the difference is like it's connected to you or it's not connected. It's there, it can do things, but it doesn't feel like a part of the rest of you when you realize it's closed. Until you realize it's closed, it just feels like whatever. It's like the thing you grew up with having, you know? But when you open it, you suddenly realize, you know, you might have it open or in alignment for 30 seconds at the end of one of these stretches, and you go, oh, holy shit, that's way different. A tiny little movement makes the whole exercise totally different. You're doing the same thing that you were doing an hour ago, but now it's changed because now that's more connected. You get more feeling and sensation in, say, your arm, or in this case, your leg. And as an added bonus, you can release parts of that limb. So for me with my legs, I could release certain things that probably generally the easy things to release. But I'm just now getting to the point where I can actually release my body's grip on my own body weight in other parts of my leg and release it down to the bottoms of my feet. And I couldn't do that before. So it is opening up. And it's a really uncomfortable process to open up your legs. I don't know how much I can actually see on the camera. This is a pretty janky setup, so deal with it. But in karate, a lot of times we'll use horse stance. And when we go for horse stance, we typically go for shikodachi. Your feet are out and at like 45. Knees are over top of the ankles. Back flattens out, shoulders down, chest is tall, and you just sit down in the middle. And yeah, it's an operating stance that we use in kata and we use in various takedowns and applications, sure. But it's also a good way to train your legs and to train your hips to open up and distribute that weight down to the feet. And that's kind of been my typical leg training. You know, I'll sit like that for a good while. But this is different because you're actively releasing your muscles' grip on your weight. And so that drops down. And for me, it turns into pins and needles. Parts go numb. Things feel like they're suddenly expanding, and it doesn't feel comforting. It feels like stress and work. And your body starts sending off these red flags like, hey, something's wrong. Like it's gonna explode, or blood's gonna come shooting out of your toenails, or you're gonna mess up your leg for life, and now it's just not gonna work. Those thoughts go through my mind quite a bit. And at this point now, where I am with my training, I think, I'm fine. When I first started, I had to kind of have a little trust of, these guys are doing it. They've had injuries like mine, if not worse. They can do it. I should be able to do it. Let's try it out. Let's just see what happens. What happens if I do sit in this really painful position? What if I didn't get up? What if I just kind of kept going? Would I die? I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to mess my leg up. Let's find out. And I'll just keep going. And I've learned a lot that way. I learned where my walls are and how to get past those, which is a really difficult thing to do. Anyway, I'm gonna get lost in the weeds just in the arch. Another thing with generally my legs, there's a definite difference in feeling between everything being tight and constricted, contracting muscles versus released. And that beyond just things going, there seems to be almost, I want to give like a direction to it. I don't know how else to describe it. This is a really tricky one to describe, and I've been thinking about it for weeks. So if I'm just standing like this, and how I would normally stand, my feet are tight. Like they're holding. It's as if I don't do that, my feet are I'm gonna like fall on the floor or something. It's ridiculous. My shins and my calves do the same. So when I do release my legs, there's a switch. When I'm tight, it almost feels like things are pulling in and up. And there's a direction to it, though. It really feels as though I'm trying to pull the floor up, or I'm trying to keep things in tight. It's so odd. And when I release, that direction just flips. Everything just goes down. It's like I can feel the direction of something in my feet and my legs. And when I'm tight, things are going up. And when I release, everything distinctly goes down. I'm not pushing anything down. I'm just trying to just not hold it. And gravity does everything else. And it just goes down. It's really, really cool. I don't know what I'm feeling there. It's not the body weight. It is different than the body weight. There's something distinct here. There's another aspect to this training that I didn't see coming. In 2019, when I went to that first camp, I think I said that I was on a workout regimen that was pretty steady. Nothing crazy or hardcore, just I was doing my push-ups, I was doing my calisthenics, I was doing kata, and I was hitting makiwara, I was doing some weighted exercises, and a lot of stance work, and hand conditioning, arm conditioning, shin conditioning, toe conditioning. A lot of stuff that's pretty typical for Uechi karate. So turning your limbs and digits into useful tools and weapons for self-defense. I hit a certain point, where your traps pop, and I'm going through and swinging this huge weighted log over my head, and you look over in the mirror and traps are coming up and shoulders look shredded, and my biceps were pretty big and triceps were starting to pop and have like all these little divots around it, and it looks good. And when I first decided to really dive into this Tai Chi system, there was a bittersweet moment for me of I'm still really young, and I don't know if I'm ready to give up looking that good just yet. I still kind of want to be cut. There's that vain part of me that wanted that. I don't walk around downtown with my shirt off or anything. I don't show off to students or anything. I just wanted to look good and feel good and all that good stuff, right? So I was hesitant to let that go, as weird as that is to admit. I'm hearing the health benefits. I'm hearing that these people feel, you can tell that they're at such a more peaceful place than the general populace, and I wanted that. And then there's the obvious skill. I want that skill. So I decided I was going to trade my vain attempts at keeping to look good for all of those things. Health, peace, skill. And I decided this was a worthy trade. I had that bittersweet moment of, okay, here we go. I'm not going to get fat, I don't think, but my muscle is going to deteriorate. He's going to flatten out. I'm not going to have any abs. My traps I'm going to be this wiry little thing, and then I'm going to look all sad and pathetic or something, right? And maybe I'll still get to that point. I have a feeling that as I develop more, that my muscle will slowly start to atrophy in certain areas, maybe. But what I'm realizing is the opposite is true, and I've gained a muscle mass. I've done a grand total of 10 push-ups since 2019. I used to do that many before I got up and had coffee. With gaining more muscle mass, take my shoulders for example, because I hit my shoulders really hard often. Before really hitting my shoulders a lot, there were sort of gaps in the muscle that shouldn't have been there. Like I generally know what a shoulder looks and feels like in the muscular structure, and there were muscles that weren't as strong as other ones, and so they were smaller, or in some cases not really even there. They're kind of pushed out of the way from injuries and pins and things like that. And in doing things like this, some of the exercises involve twisting your arm. literally as far as you can. I'm not going to give the details on how to do it, but you're bumping into your range of motion and then doing that repeatedly, sometimes for minutes on end, and it's grueling, absolutely grueling. But what I'm noticing is that all those stretches, it's causing micro tears in the fascia and in the muscular tissue itself, and those fill in. Your body takes the proteins, fills all that stuff in, sort of like when you're building muscle. And so those gaps that were there from weaker muscles that were atrophied are no longer there. These exercises pull those apart to create more of that tissue, so then you have more space. Things can move more freely. You have less things restricting movement in, say, the shoulder. My muscles are no longer constricting and pulling that, in or up or forward, and I'm no longer able to compensate with other muscles. So previously, back here, I was using a lot more of those muscles than I was up here, and kind of depending on the arm and all that good stuff. So you could see a pretty big imbalance, and so there was a range of motion where my arm was just a lot weaker, and that's no longer the case. That has filled in, and when I'm relaxed, like right now, the shoulders look normal, my arms are pretty thin and things like that, but man, when I'm doing these exercises, if I look in the mirror, things look a lot bigger, and the muscles are really, really defined, and I can see things pulling, and things will be sore, but they're in place. And I'm not losing muscle, I'm gaining muscle, but I'm also gaining flexibility with that muscle. And so it's no longer I'm doing all these chest exercises, and then the next day I can't, put my hand behind my back or something like that. I have some trouble with that because I'm sore, but there's not a restriction in motion. I can just do that, and I have more mobility in every aspect of my body, and it's just getting better. There is so much to talk about. I know a lot of people that watch this are part of the Discover Taiji program, and you're in HME, and it's really, really cool. I get messages and videos from people. Some of these messages are huge, and going through the changes that it's made for them. People, like I said, asking about their feet and talking about what it's done, and that's really inspiring. So yeah, I'm going to be doing more of these. Also thinking about doing some push hands footage, things like that, just to kind of mark where I am. And I want to do videos of push hands of people that are also in the system that I know that are training with me, and then people that aren't in the system, and kind of see where I match up, kind of what happens, like what happens if I do push hands with a partner that doesn't care about being open and released, and what happens if they go for grappling techniques? What happens? I just want to find out. I've done it a little bit, and so I kind of know how it's going to go. But yeah, I think that'd be really, really fun. And there's going to be a number of other things that I want to do for specifically this section of my channel. And I'm very, very excited for it. Big, big thank you to my Patreon supporters. It's fantastic. Thank you. Very, very appreciative. If you do want to support the channel, of course, liking and subscribing, watching videos, things like that does help a lot. And if you feel like supporting me monetarily, then I'll have my Patreon link down in the description. For those of you that are training, train well, hit it hard, keep your chin up. Sometimes progress goes quick, sometimes it seems like it goes really slow, sometimes you hit a roadblock, or you get discouraged with things. Not having enough time is a huge one. That's super hard to deal with. Just keep at it. Like really, just anything that you can put towards it, any effort that you can. One day it might be an hour, next day you might have 3 hours. One day you might have 10 minutes, and you might do little bits and some standing or something. Then the day you get past that roadblock and you get another big chunk of progress, you're gonna look back and realize that was worth it. So, train well, guys.